The year was 2157. Humans had been part of the Galactic Coalition for 23 years. Most alien species were stronger, faster, or smarter than humans. But humans had something else. They were tough and never gave up. Dr. Allison Carter looked out the viewport of the science ship Horizon at the asteroid field ahead. Her brown hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and her blue uniform showed her rank as head of the geology team. "Dr. Carter, we are approaching the target asteroid," said the ship's computer voice. "Thank you, Ava," said Allison. She turned to her team. There were 3 humans and 2 aliens in the lab. The aliens were Krell, with blue skin and 4 arms, perfect for handling lab equipment. Allison pointed at the screen showing the asteroid. "Our scans picked up something strange inside this rock. The readings don't match any known element." One of the Krell, named Zil, made a clicking sound with his mouth. "Perhaps the sensors are wrong. We calibrated them last week, but cosmic radiation can cause errors. That's why we're here to check," Allison said with a smile. "Let's prep the collection drones." The Horizon moved closer to the asteroid. It was small, only about 100 meters across. The ship extended a mechanical arm and drilled into the rock's surface. Inside was a strange, silvery metal that glowed with a faint blue light. "Amazing," Allison whispered as the sample was brought into the ship's lab. The metal seemed to flow like liquid but kept its shape. The team placed it in a containment field for safety. "Initial scans complete," said Ben Lawson, one of the human scientists. "It's definitely not on the periodic table, not even in the Coalition's extended table with 215 elements." Allison was about to respond when she heard a thud. She turned to see Zil on the floor. The second Krell, a female named Tara, was holding her head. "I feel wrong," Tara said before she also collapsed. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Ava's voice came through the speakers. "Medical emergency. All non-human crew members are showing signs of distress." Allison checked Zil's vital signs. "His cells are breaking down." "What's happening?" The ship's captain, Peter Reeves, called from the bridge. His voice was tense. "Dr. Carter, whatever you brought on board is affecting all non-human crew. We have 14 crew members in critical condition." Allison looked at the sample with horror. "The new element. Seal the lab. Put the sample in maximum containment." The 3 humans in the lab worked quickly to secure the sample. Through the lab windows, Allison could see alien crew members being carried to the medical bay. "Why aren't we affected?" asked Lisa Chen, the 3rd human scientist. Ben checked his own readings and then scanned Allison and Lisa. "No cellular damage. Nothing. It's like the element doesn't see us as threats." For the next 12 hours, the human crew worked to save their alien friends. The ship's doctor, Alan Morris, put the worst cases in stasis pods to slow down the cellular breakdown. Allison worked nonstop, studying the element. "It emits a type of radiation I've never seen before," she told Captain Reeves. "But somehow, human biology isn't affected by it. Our cells actually seem to resonate with it in a harmless way." The captain looked grim. "The Coalition will want answers, and they won't be happy that we found something that only harms non-humans." "I need to understand this element," Allison said. "I'm going to call it Tyrannum, after Earth. If we can figure out how it works, maybe we can neutralize its effects." As she studied the glowing metal, Allison didn't realize that news of the discovery was already spreading across Coalition space, or that it would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. On her screen, the first detailed scan of Tyrannum appeared. The molecule structure was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. And somehow, out of thousands of intelligent species in the known galaxy, only humans could survive it. 3 days after the discovery of Tyrannum, the Horizon docked at Centauri Station. Medical teams in special suits rushed aboard to help the alien crew members still in stasis. News of the strange element had spread fast. Allison stood at the station's large window, watching ships come and go. The station was a huge ring in space, home to thousands of beings from over 30 different species. Usually, she loved the busy mix of aliens. Today, she felt alone. Dr. Carter. A voice came from behind her. She turned to see a tall man in a coalition uniform. His badge showed he was from security. "I'm Commander Adams," he said. "I need to take you to the emergency meeting." The meeting room was filled with important officials. Some were in person, others appeared as holograms. At the center sat Director Vexthul, a 7-foot-tall insect-like alien who led coalition security. "Dr. Carter." Vexthul's voice was deep and clicking. "Your discovery has caused great concern. The Coalition Council has called an emergency session." A hologram appeared showing the asteroid field. "This entire area is now restricted. No ships are allowed. We must destroy all samples of this Tyrannum immediately." Allison stepped forward. "With respect, Director, destroying it would be a mistake. We need to understand it." A Krell representative hissed. "Understand it. It kills every species except humans. Some might see this as a perfect weapon." Murmurs filled the room. Allison felt her face go hot. "That's not what we want," she said firmly. "We were as shocked as anyone. This could be a scientific breakthrough." An older human woman stood up. "I'm Admiral Helen Porter, Earth Alliance. Dr. Carter is right. We need research, not fear." Director Vexthul's compound eyes gleamed. "The Council will vote tomorrow. Until then, all samples stay in maximum containment." After the meeting, Allison's comm device buzzed. A message appeared. "Need to talk. Meet me at Dock 7. Jack." Allison's heart beat faster. Dr. Jack Peterson was her former colleague from Earth's Lunar Research Station, also her ex-boyfriend. They hadn't spoken in 2 years. Dock 7 was quiet. Jack stood near a coffee vendor, looking the same as always, tall with messy brown hair and glasses. "Hey, ally," he said with a small smile. "Quite a discovery you made. What do you want, Jack?" "I've been assigned to a secret Earth defense project," he said, lowering his voice. "They want me to study Tyrannum's potential military applications." Allison stepped back. "Are you serious? This element could kill billions of Coalition citizens. Or it could finally give humans an edge," Jack argued. "We've been the underdog since first contact. Some species still see us as primitive." "This isn't the way," Allison said. "I won't help you." Jack's face hardened. "I'm not asking. Earth government has ordered all research shared. You're a citizen." "I'm also a Coalition scientist," she replied. "The Council hasn't decided yet." As she walked away, her comm buzzed again. The message read, "Dr. Carter, you've been summoned to the full Council meeting tomorrow. A decision has been reached." Back in her temporary quarters, Allison couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the alien crew members in stasis. What if Tyrannum got into the wrong hands? What if Jack was right, and some humans wanted to use it as a weapon? The next morning, the Council chamber was packed. Representatives from all 42 Coalition species were present. Many looked at the humans with suspicion or fear. The High Counselor, a wise old being made of living crystal, spoke. "After much debate, we have decided. The Tyrannum research will continue, but under strict controls. We will establish a special station in neutral space. Dr. Carter will lead the human team." The High Counselor's voice grew serious. "Dr. Carter, your discovery could unite us through science or divide us through fear. The Council trusts you to find the right path." Allison nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. In the back of the chamber, she noticed Jack watching her with cold eyes. 1 month later, Allison stood in the main lab of Darwin Research Station. The station floated in deep space, far from any inhabited worlds. Through the window, she could see stars but no planets. It was the safest place to study Tyrannum. "The containment field is ready, Dr. Carter," said Dr. Daniel Martinez. He was a physicist from Earth with kind eyes and a calm voice. Allison was glad to have him on her team. "Thank you, Daniel. Let's begin Test 47. The team watched as robotic arms placed a tiny sample of Tyrannum into a chamber. Inside was a collection of cellular samples from 20 different species. Dr. Xorlath, a tall alien with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand, monitored the readings. He wore a special suit that would protect him if any Tyrannum radiation leaked out. "The effect is immediate," Xorlath said. "All non-human cells are breaking down. The human cells remain unchanged." Daniel pointed to one screen. "Look at this. The human cells aren't just surviving. They're absorbing the radiation and using it somehow." Allison leaned closer. "You're right. It's like our cells recognize this element. But how is that possible? Tyrannum wasn't on Earth." "Maybe it was," Daniel said quietly. "What if Tyrannum or something similar existed on Earth long ago? What if our ancestors were exposed to it and we evolved to use it instead of being harmed by it?" This idea excited the team. For the next week, they tested old Earth rocks and compared them to Tyrannum. They searched old records and geological surveys. One evening, Allison was alone in the lab when a message appeared on her screen. It was from Kara Williams, a security officer on Earth. "Dr. Carter, we've detected unauthorized access to your research files. Someone is copying your data. Be careful." Allison felt cold. Who would steal their research? Then she remembered Jack's words about military applications. The next day, Allison shared her concerns with Daniel and Xorlath. "We need to work faster," she said. "I think someone wants to use Tyrannum as a weapon." Daniel looked worried. "But who would be so reckless? One leak could kill millions of non-human beings." "Some humans still feel threatened by aliens," Allison said. "They might see Tyrannum as a way to protect Earth or gain power." Xorlath's large eyes blinked slowly. "In my culture, we have a saying. Knowledge found in darkness will cast dark shadows. We must bring this research into the light." The team worked day and night. After 3 more weeks, they had a breakthrough. "Look at this," Daniel called out one morning. "When we expose Tyrannum to this mineral from Earth, simple calcium carbonate, it changes structure. The harmful radiation stops." They tested it again and again. It worked every time. Calcium carbonate, found in limestone, chalk, and marble, neutralized Tyrannum completely. Allison smiled for the first time in weeks. This changes everything. Tyrannum can be made safe for everyone. Just as they were celebrating, the station shook violently. Alarms blared. "We're being boarded," the security system announced. "Unknown ships have docked at Airlock 3. Allison and Daniel rushed to the security monitors. Armed figures in black uniforms were entering the station. Leading them was a familiar face, Jack Peterson. "He's come for our research," Allison whispered. Daniel grabbed her arm. "We need to secure the lab and send our findings to the Coalition immediately." Across the station, they heard explosions and shouting. Dr. Xorlath was still in the main lab with the Tyrannum samples. "Xorlath is in danger," Allison said, "if they break the containment field." They ran back toward the lab, hearing gunshots ahead. Their discovery could save countless lives, if they could protect it from those who wanted to use Tyrannum for destruction. Allison and Daniel reached the main lab door just as a loud explosion shook the station. The door was bent and smoking. Through the small window, Allison could see Dr. Xorlath on the floor. Near him, one of the Tyrannum containers was cracked. "He's been exposed," Allison shouted. "We need to get in there with the calcium carbonate." Daniel tried the door controls, but they were damaged. "It's locked down. Safety protocol." Allison looked around and spotted an emergency access panel. She pulled it open and began rewiring the circuits. "Hurry," Daniel urged, watching through the window. Xorlath's skin is starting to break down. In the distance, they heard more explosions and shouting. Jack's team was getting closer. "Got it." Allison said as the door slid open halfway. They squeezed through into the lab. Daniel ran to Torlath, while Allison grabbed their calcium carbonate solution. The alien scientist's gray skin was turning black in patches. His breathing was ragged. "This will help," Allison said, spraying the solution over Torlath's body. Then she turned to the cracked container and sprayed it too. The glowing blue light of the Tyrannum dimmed as the mineral neutralized it. Torlath's breathing steadied. "Thank you," he whispered. "We need to get you to the medical bay," Daniel said, helping him up. Suddenly, the lab door was forced all the way open. 5 people in black uniforms rushed in, guns pointed at them. Behind them came Jack. "Step away from the alien," Jack ordered, "and don't try anything." Allison stood her ground. "What are you doing, Jack? You could have killed Torlath." Jack ignored her and walked to the research station. "Download all files," he told one of his team. To another, he said, "Collect all Tyrannum samples. Careful with the containment units." "You can't take this research," Allison said. "It's too dangerous. We just found a way to make Tyrannum safe." Jack laughed. "Safe? That's not what we want. Terra Prime doesn't want it safe." "Terra Prime?" Daniel asked. "What's that?" "It's our movement," Jack explained. "Humans first. We've been pushed around by aliens since first contact. Now we have something they fear." While Jack was talking, Allison slowly moved toward a storage cabinet where they kept more calcium carbonate. "What are you planning to do with Tyrannum?" she asked, trying to distract him. "Next week is the Coalition Summit on Eurova. All the leaders in one place." Jack smiled coldly. "The perfect chance to show the galaxy that humans won't be overlooked anymore." Allison was horrified. "You're talking about mass murder." "I'm talking about respect," Jack shouted. "After we demonstrate what Tyrannum can do, humans will never be the weakest species again." One of Jack's team called out, "Files downloaded, sir." "Time to go," Jack said. "Bring the alien as insurance." 2 men grabbed Torlath, who was still weak. "No." Daniel moved to stop them and was knocked down by one of the armed men. In that moment, Allison grabbed a vial of calcium carbonate solution and threw it at the case of Tyrannum samples Jack's team had packed. The case broke open, spilling neutralized Tyrannum everywhere. "What have you done?" Jack yelled, his face red with anger. Allison stood tall. "Saved millions of lives. This batch is useless to you now." Jack pointed his gun at her. "There's more where that came from. And now you're coming with us. Your knowledge is still valuable." Before Allison could respond, the station rocked with another explosion, but this one came from outside. "Coalition ships," someone shouted from the hallway. 3 cruisers just arrived. Jack looked furious. "Move out. Bring the scientists and whatever samples aren't contaminated." As they were pushed toward the door, Daniel caught Allison's eye. They had neutralized some of the Tyrannum, but Jack still had samples. And now he had them too. Jack's ship raced away from Darwin Station, dodging laser fire from the Coalition cruisers. Inside, Allison, Daniel, and Torlath were held in a small storage room that had been converted to a cell. "Are you okay?" Allison asked Torlath, who sat against the wall. His skin was still discolored where the Tyrannum had touched him. "I will live," the alien scientist said, "thanks to you and your calcium discovery." Daniel was examining the door lock. "It's electronic. If we had tools, maybe we could bypass it." Suddenly, they heard a noise from the air vent above them. The cover slid aside, and a woman's face appeared. "Dr. Carter," the woman whispered. "I'm Kara Williams, Coalition Intelligence." Allison recognized the name from the warning message. "You're the one who warned me about the data breach." Kara nodded. "I've been undercover in Terra Prime for months. We need to move fast. Jack plans to reach Earth in 10 hours. With Kara's help, they escaped the storage room and made their way through the ship's narrow passages. Kara led them to a small control room. Jack and most of his team are on the bridge, she explained. I need to send a message to Coalition Command about Jack's plan. The Europa Summit is in 3 days, Sorlath said. If Jack launches a Tyrannum weapon there, Daniel shook his head. It would kill hundreds of delegates from every species except humans. The coalition would fall apart. Kara worked quickly at the communications panel. Coalition Command needs to know exactly what we're dealing with. Dr. Carter, can you explain how Tyrannum works and how to neutralize it? While Allison recorded a detailed message about Tyrannum and the calcium carbonate solution, Daniel found the ship's navigation system. We're heading to a place called Olympus Base, he said. It's hidden in the old mines on Mars. Kara nodded. That's Terra Prime's main weapon facility. Jack has more Tyrannum there and missile systems to deliver it. After sending the message, they tried to access the ship's security systems, but an alarm suddenly blared. They know we're free, Kara said. We need to get to the escape pods. They ran through the corridors, hearing footsteps behind them. Just as they reached the escape pod section, armed guards appeared ahead. Stop right there, one shouted, raising his weapon. Kara pulled out a hidden gun and fired, hitting the guard's shoulder. The others scattered for cover, and Kara pushed Allison toward the nearest pod. All of you, get in, she ordered. As Daniel and Sorlath climbed in, Jack appeared at the end of the hallway. Kara, he called out, looking shocked. You're helping them. I'm preventing a war, she answered, firing another shot to keep him back. Allison grabbed Kara's arm. Come with us. Someone needs to make sure this pod launches, Kara said, pushing Allison inside. I'll hold them off and take the next one. Before Allison could argue, Kara shut the pod door and hit the launch button. Through the window, Allison saw Jack and his men rushing forward as Kara fired her last shots. The pod shot away from the ship with a violent jerk. Through the small window, they watched Jack's ship growing smaller. She sacrificed herself, Daniel said quietly. We don't know that, Allison replied, though her voice lacked conviction. She might have reached another pod. Sorlath was checking the pod systems. We are on course for Earth. Emergency beacon is active. Coalition ships should find us in approximately 6 hours. But Jack will reach Olympus Base before that, Daniel said. He'll have time to prepare his attack on the Europa Summit. Allison stared out at the stars. We have to warn Earth Central Command about Jack's plan, and we need to produce large quantities of the calcium solution quickly. The pod's communication system was limited, but Allison began recording everything they knew about Terra Prime's plans. It was a race against time now. Coalition forces against Jack's team. Science against weapons. Peace against war. And somewhere in the darkness of space, a small pod carried the knowledge that could save or doom the entire coalition. 5 hours later, a coalition patrol ship found the escape pod. After quick medical checks, Allison, Daniel, and Sorlath were rushed to Earth Central Command in Geneva. The command center was huge, with screens showing maps of the solar system. People in uniforms moved quickly, preparing for a crisis. In the center stood Commander Ryan Garcia, one of the highest-ranking humans in the coalition forces. Dr. Carter, he greeted them. Your message about Tyrannum and the Terra Prime threat has been received. We've located their base on Mars. Allison pointed to the map. Have you sent ships to stop them? We have a fleet heading there now, Commander Garcia said. But we have another problem. He showed them a new screen. On it was a small craft leaving Mars, heading toward Jupiter. This launched 20 minutes ago, the commander explained. We believe it's carrying a Tyrannum weapon. It's on course for Europa. Daniel stepped forward. The summit starts tomorrow. You need to cancel it. The Coalition Council refuses, Sorlath said. They say canceling would show fear. They don't want to give Terra Prime that victory. Then we need to stop that ship, Allison insisted. Commander Garcia looked grim. Our ships are faster, but we won't catch it before it reaches Europa airspace. And if we shoot it down near Europa, the Tyrannum would still spread. Allison finished. We need another option. For the next hour, they worked on plans. Scientists were already producing the calcium carbonate solution, but making enough to neutralize a Tyrannum weapon would take time they didn't have. Wait, Daniel said suddenly. What if we don't need to catch the ship? What if we just need to reach Europa first and prepare? Explain, Commander Garcia said. Europa is covered in ice, Daniel continued. Under the ice is a vast ocean. That ocean is mostly water, but it has minerals dissolved in it, including calcium carbonate. Allison's eyes widened. If we could release enough concentrated calcium into Europa's atmosphere before the weapon hits, we could neutralize the Tyrannum as soon as it's deployed. Torlaf finished. The plan took shape quickly. A fast coalition ship would rush to Europa with a special device to release calcium dust into the atmosphere. It would create a protective shield around the summit location. As preparations were underway, a message came in from the Mars attack fleet. They had captured Olympus base, but Jack and a few Terra Prime members had escaped in another ship. They're following the weapon, Commander Garcia said, probably to make sure it completes its mission. Allison, Daniel, and Sorlath boarded the fastest coalition ship, the Swift Arrow *. With them was a team of scientists and the calcium dispersal device. They had 8 hours to reach Europa before Jack's weapon. As they approached Jupiter's system, they detected Jack's ship following the weapon. He's gaining on us, the pilot reported. Suddenly, their ship shook as weapons fire hit them. Jack is attacking, Daniel shouted. Commander Garcia's voice came over the comm system. Dr. Carter, we've received a message from Jack's ship. He wants to speak with you. On the screen, Jack's face appeared. He looked tired but determined. Stand down, Allison, he said. You can't stop this. Humans need to take their rightful place in the coalition. By killing innocent people, Allison asked. That's not who we are, Jack. You don't understand what's at stake, Jack replied. My parents died when alien doctors treated their own kind first during the Mars pandemic. Humans are always last in line. So you'll murder hundreds to prove a point? Daniel asked. Jack's eyes hardened. I'm creating a future where humans are respected and feared. Respect built on fear isn't respect, Sorlath said. It's just fear. Enough, Jack shouted. I'm done talking. The weapon will reach Europa in 1 hour. Nothing can stop it now. The screen went dark, and immediately Jack's ship fired again. The Swift Arrow * shook violently. Engine damage, the pilot called out. We're losing speed. Europa was visible now, a pale moon against Jupiter's massive form. So close, yet they were running out of time. Allison looked at Daniel and Sorlath. They needed a new plan, and fast. As the Swift Arrow * limped toward Europa, Allison refused to give up. She, Daniel, and Sorlath gathered in the ship's lab, searching for another solution. Our engines are too damaged to reach Europa before the weapon, Allison said. But we still have the calcium dispersal device. Daniel looked at the ship's scanners. Jack's ship is still following the weapon. He wants to see it happen. Sorlath touched the screen showing their position. We cannot reach Europa in time, but perhaps we could reach the weapon itself. They all looked at each other as the idea took shape. Instead of trying to protect Europa, they could neutralize the Tyrannum directly. We could launch the calcium device at the weapon, Allison said. If it hits, the Tyrannum would be neutralized before it even reaches Europa. The captain agreed to the plan. Their last hope was to use the ship's launch system to send the calcium device like a missile toward the Tyrannum weapon. As they prepared, Jack's ship approached them again. His voice came over the comm system. I know what you're planning, Allison. I won't let you stop this. Jack's ship began firing, making it harder for them to aim at the small, fast-moving weapon. "We need a distraction," Daniel said. Without warning, Sorlath rushed to a small shuttle bay. "I will draw their fire," he called back. "Sorlath, no," Allison shouted. "Your people are especially vulnerable to Tyrannum, which is why I must help stop it," he replied. "My people need me to be brave." Before they could stop him, Sorlath launched a small shuttle. Immediately, Jack's ship turned to fire at it, giving them the chance they needed. "Calcium device ready," Daniel reported, targeting the weapon. The captain gave the order. "Fire." The device shot away from their ship, racing toward the Tyrannum weapon. On the screens, they watched it close the distance. "It's going to miss," Allison said, her heart sinking as she saw the trajectory was slightly off. Then, unexpectedly, Sorlath's shuttle appeared, nudging the calcium device back on course. Both the shuttle and the device crashed into the weapon in a bright flash of light. For a moment, everyone was silent. The sensors showed the weapon was still intact, still moving toward Europa. "Did it work?" Daniel whispered. Allison checked the readings. "The Tyrannum radiation. It's gone. The calcium neutralized it. The weapon would still hit Europa, but now it was harmless, and Sorlath had sacrificed himself to make it happen." Jack's angry voice came through once more. "What have you done? Years of planning, destroyed." Suddenly, a new voice joined the channel. "This is Commander Garcia. Jack Peterson, your ship is surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Coalition ships had arrived, catching Jack's ship between them. With no choice, Jack surrendered. 3 days later, Allison and Daniel stood in the Grand Hall on Europa, where the summit was taking place. The Coalition Council had gathered to honor them and to remember Sorlath's sacrifice. The High Counselor, voice solemn, addressed the assembly. "Because of these brave individuals, a great tragedy was prevented, and we have learned something important about ourselves." Allison was asked to speak. As she stood before representatives of dozens of species, she found the right words. "Tyrannum could have divided us forever, one element that separated humans from everyone else. But instead, it brought us together. It showed us that our differences can become our strengths when we work together." She looked at Daniel, then continued. "Sorlath gave his life not just for his own people, but for all of us. That is the true power we should seek, not the power to harm, but the power to save each other." As the summit concluded, a new research initiative was announced. Tyrannum would be studied safely, with all the knowledge shared openly among coalition members. Properly controlled, it might help with new medicines and technologies. Allison looked out the window at Jupiter's swirling clouds, the same view Sorlath had seen in his final moments. In the reflection of the glass, she saw Daniel approach. "What now?" he asked quietly. "We keep exploring," Allison replied. "We keep finding the things that make us different, and the things that bring us together. That's what humans do best." Outside, the stars shone on all worlds equally, reminding them that in the vast universe, they were all connected, different, yet the same.